Introduction. What does it truly mean to remain calm when everything around you is collapsing? You have power over your mind, not outside events. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, and imagine a world burning with anxiety while one disciplined mind stands firm, unmoved, guiding itself through chaos. Modern life is defined by uncertainty, pressure, and constant distraction. People chase control through wealth, validation, and outcomes, yet feel more fragile than ever. Stoicism offers a radically different solution: resilience through inner mastery. This philosophy teaches that strength is not found in avoiding hardship, but in training the mind to respond with clarity, discipline, and purpose. Stoicism is not passive acceptance. It is active mental leadership over one's thoughts, emotions, and actions. Enjoyed the video? Subscribe to our channel, heave it a like, share it with friends, and leave a comment. Chapter 1. The dichotomy of control, where true resilience begins. What does it truly mean to be strong? In a world that refuses to behave the way we want, some things are in our control and others are not, wrote Epictetus, and within this single sentence lies the foundation of Stoic resilience. Imagine a person standing in the middle of chaos news, shouting disaster, people arguing, plans collapsing, yet remaining calm, focused, and purposeful. That calm is not luck or privilege. It is the result of understanding control. Stoicism begins by drawing a clear line between what belongs to us and what never will. And resilience is born the moment we stop crossing that line. Modern suffering is often we worry about opinions we cannot command, outcomes we cannot guarantee, and futures that do not yet exist. Stoicism cuts through this confusion with brutal clarity. Your thoughts, judgments, intentions, and actions are yours. Everything else, other people's behavior, external success, failure, praise, blame, health, wealth, and Aventine exists outside your authority. The Stoic does not deny this reality. He accepts it fully. This acceptance is not weakness, but strategic intelligence. By focusing only on what can be controlled, the mind conserves energy, sharpens discipline, and becomes unshakable. Resilience collapses when people attempt to control the uncontrollable. A person who needs constant approval becomes fragile, because approval depends on others. A person who ties peace to outcomes becomes anxious, because outcomes are uncertain. Stoicism removes this dependency. When your peace depends only on your character and choices, external chaos loses its power. This is why Stoic resilience is internal, not situational. It does not improve when life becomes easier. It strengthens precisely when life becomes harder. The Stoic mindset does not promise comfort. It promises clarity. Clarity reveals that anger often comes from unmet expectations, fear from imagined futures, and frustration from resisting reality. When expectations are released and reality is accepted, emotional storms begin to settle. This does not mean doing nothing. On the contrary, Stoicism demands action-focused action where it matters. You act with full effort, but you release attachment to results. Effort becomes your responsibility. Outcome becomes fate's business. This separation creates a rare form of peace. Calm intensity without anxiety. Consider failure. Most people fear it because they equate failure with identity. Stoicism reframes failure as information, not a verdict. If you acted with wisdom and effort, you succeeded regardless of the result. If you acted carelessly, you learned. Either way, your worth remains intact. This mindset builds resilience because it removes fear from action. When fear disappears, courage becomes natural. Control also applies to emotions. Stoicism teaches that emotions are not commands. They are signals. You may feel anger, fear, or sadness, but you are not required to obey them. The Stoic pauses, examines the judgment behind the emotion, and chooses a rational response. This pause is the space where resilience lives. Without it, life becomes reaction. With it, life becomes leadership. One of the hardest truths Stoicism offers is that life owes us nothing. This truth can feel cold at first, but it is deeply liberating. When expectations are dropped, Gratitude rises. Small moments gain value because they are no longer assumed. Resilience grows because disappointment loses its sting. You stop demanding fairness from the universe and start demanding excellence from yourself. The dichotomy of control also reshapes relationships. Instead of trying to change people, the Stoic changes responses. Instead of resentment, there is understanding. Instead of manipulation, there is boundaries. This creates emotional stability and self-respect. You cannot control how others treat you, but you can control what you tolerate and how you respond. That control is enough. Stoicism does not eliminate pain, but it prevents unnecessary suffering. Pain is natural. Suffering is optional. Suffering begins when we argue with reality, cling to expectations, and resist what is. Acceptance ends that argument. Acceptance does not mean liking reality. It means recognizing it. From recognition comes intelligent action. Resilience, in the Stoic sense, is not about enduring silently. It is about standing consciously. It is the ability to remain aligned with values when emotions push otherwise. It is the discipline to choose reason over impulse, effort over complaint, and dignity over despair. This discipline begins with control, knowing where it starts and where it ends. When you truly understand the dichotomy of control, anxiety loses its fuel. Fear weakens because it no longer controls your decisions. You stop wasting life fighting shadows. Energy returns. Focus sharpens. The mind becomes quiet, not empty, but clear. This clarity is the first victory of Stoicism and the foundation of all resilience. If you master nothing else, master this. Guard what belongs to your mind, your character, your actions, and release the rest. The world may remain chaotic, but you will not. Chapter 2. Responsibility over blame. The birth of inner power. Why do some people grow stronger after hardship while others grow bitter? Do not accuse others. Do not blame yourself, but learn, advised Epictetus. And in this quiet instruction lies the Stoic path to power. Imagine two people facing the same failure. One searches for excuses. Stoicism teaches that resilience begins the moment blame ends, because blame hands your power to forces you cannot control, while responsibility returns that power to you. Blame is comforting because it protects the ego. It allows the mind to avoid discomfort by pointing outward at circumstances, people, fate, or injustice. Yet this comfort is expensive. If your suffering is caused by others, then your relief depends on others changing. That is weakness disguised as explanation. The Stoic refuses this dependency. Instead, he asks a harder, more useful question. What is mine to own here? Responsibility, in Stoic thought, is not self-attack or guilt. You always control how you interpret it and what you do next. This shift transforms pain into progress. When responsibility replaces blame, problems become solvable. Lessons become visible. Modern culture often confuses responsibility with harshness. Responsibility is not about condemning yourself. When a Stoic fails, he does not say, "I am worthless." He says, "I acted without wisdom now. I will act better." This mindset protects dignity while demanding improvement. Resilience grows not from punishment, but from disciplined correction. Blame also poisons relationships. It breeds resentment, keeps wounds open, and traps people in cycles of conflict. Stoicism breaks this cycle by redirecting focus inward. Instead of obsessing over how others should behave, the Stoic focuses on how he will behave. This creates emotional independence. You no longer need others to be fair, kind, or rational in order to remain stable. Your stability becomes self-generated. Responsibility sharpens clarity. When excuses disappear, truth becomes visible. You begin to see patterns in your decisions, habits, and reactions. This awareness is uncomfortable, but it is powerful. A person who sees clearly can change. A person who hides behind blame remains blind. Stoicism values truth over comfort because truth builds strength. One of the greatest Stoic insights is that injustice does not excuse the loss of character. You may be treated unfairly, betrayed, or misunderstood, but you are never forced to become bitter, cruel, or dishonest. Responsibility protects the soul even when the world fails. In this way, Stoicism offers a form of moral resilience and unbreakable inner integrity that no external event can corrupt. Taking responsibility also restores momentum. Blame keeps you stuck in the past. Responsibility moves you forward, instead of replaying what should have happened. The Stoic asks, what must be done now? Action replaces complaint. Progress replaces paralysis. This forward motion is essential to resilience, because stagnation magnifies suffering while movement dissolves it. Responsibility demands courage, because it removes hiding places. There is no comfort in saying, "This is my fault to fix," yet there is freedom in it. When you accept responsibility, you reclaim agency. Life stops happening to you and starts happening through you. This is the moment resilience becomes visible in action. Stoicism does not deny that systems can be unfair or that people can cause harm. It simply refuses to let those realities define your inner state. The Stoic understands that carrying anger or bitterness does not punish the offender, it punishes the self. Responsibility releases that burden. It allows you to respond with wisdom instead of reacting with rage. In choosing responsibility over blame, the Stoic becomes both firm and calm. He does not waste energy proving he was wronged. He invests energy becoming stronger. This discipline transforms hardship into refinement. Resilience, then, is not the absence of pain, but the presence of ownership. When you take responsibility, you reclaim control over the only territory that truly matters, your mind. This is the quiet strength Stoicism offers. Chapter 3. Perception shapes reality. Mastering the inner narrative. Why do the same events break some people while strengthening others? Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views they take of them. Epictetus observed, revealing a truth that sits at the heart of Stoic resilience. Imagine two minds facing the same storm. One collapses into panic. The other remains steady. The difference is not the storm itself, but the story each mind tells about it. Stoicism teaches that reality enters the mind through perception, and resilience begins when perception is disciplined. Most people believe emotions are automatic reactions to events. Stoicism challenges this assumption. Between an event and an emotion lies judgment. Something happens, the mind assigns meaning, and emotion follows. When that meaning is distorted, this is unbearable. This should not be happening. I cannot survive this. Suffering multiplies. The Stoic learns to question these judgments instead of obeying them. This questioning is not denial. It is clarity. Perception is powerful because it determines focus. When the mind labels an event as catastrophic, attention narrows, panic rises, and options disappear. When the same event is labeled as difficult but manageable, the mind remains open, strategic, and calm. Stoicism trains this second response. It teaches the mind to replace exaggeration with accuracy, fear with reason, and reaction with choice. Resilience depends on this mental discipline. A person who cannot control perception is at the mercy of circumstance. Every insult becomes an injury, every setback a disaster, every delay a personal attack. Stoicism breaks this cycle by reminding us that external events carry no built-in meaning. Meaning is assigned, and what is assigned can be changed. This realization restores freedom. Stoics practice reframing, not to deceive themselves, but to see truth without emotional distortion. Loss becomes impermanence revealed. Failure becomes instruction. Criticism becomes information. Even pain becomes evidence of endurance. This reframing does not erase difficulty, but it prevents difficulty from becoming identity. You are not your worst moment. You are the awareness observing it. The Stoic also understands that imagination is both a tool and a trap. Fear thrives in imagined futures that may never arrive. The mind runs ahead, creating suffering in advance. Stoicism pulls attention back to the present moment, the only place where action is possible. By anchoring perception in what is actually happening now, anxiety loses its stage. Language plays a critical role in perception. Stoics are careful with words, because words shape thought. Saying, "I am ruined," creates despair. Saying this is challenging creates space for response. Resilient minds choose precise language, refusing to dramatize reality. This discipline strengthens emotional control and prevents unnecessary suffering. Perception also affects self. When mistakes are viewed as proof of inadequacy, confidence collapses. Stoicism reframes mistakes as part of learning, not a verdict on worth. This preserves self-respect while encouraging growth. Resilience requires this balanced self-assessment without self-destruction. Another key Stoic insight is separating observation from judgment. You can observe pain without adding insult to it. You can acknowledge loss without declaring life unfair. This separation is subtle but transformative. It creates a mental pause where wisdom can enter. That pause is the difference between endurance and breakdown. Perception shapes behavior. A mind convinced it is powerless will act passively. A mind that sees challenge as opportunity will act decisively. Stoicism deliberately cultivates the second vision. By training perception, it trains action, and by training action, it builds resilience. In mastering perception, the Stoic does not escape reality. He meets it fully, without illusion or exaggeration. Calm replaces chaos, not because the world becomes kinder, but because the mind becomes clearer. When perception is governed by reason, resilience becomes a natural consequence, not a forced effort. Chapter 4. Adversity as Training. Turning obstacles into strength. Why do difficulties feel like punishments when they could be preparation? The obstacle is the way, Marcus Aurelius wrote, capturing the Stoic belief that hardship is not an interruption of life, but its most effective teacher. Imagine a blacksmith striking steel again and again, not to destroy it, but to shape it. In the same way, adversity forges resilience. If the mind understands its purpose, Stoicism trains us to see challenges not as enemies, but as exercises designed to strengthen character. Most people measure a good life by comfort and ease. Stoicism rejects this standard. Comfort weakens the mind. Challenge sharpens it. Without resistance, patience, courage, and discipline remain theoretical virtues. Adversity makes them real. The Stoic does not seek suffering, but when it arrives, he uses it. This deliberate use of difficulty is what transforms pain into power. Adversity exposes character. Under pressure, masks fall away, and habits reveal themselves. Stoicism welcomes this exposure because it offers self. Every challenge becomes feedback. Impatience reveals where patience must be trained. Fear reveals where courage must be strengthened. In this way, hardship becomes a mirror rather than a curse. The Stoic also understands that avoidance of difficulty increases future suffering. Problems ignored grow heavier. Fear avoided grows stronger. By facing adversity directly, the Stoic shortens its lifespan and reduces its impact. This proactive stance builds confidence. Each survived challenge becomes proof of endurance, and resilience compounds over time. Reframing adversity requires discipline. The first reaction is often emotional anger, fear, or despair. Stoicism does not judge this reaction, it delays it. In that delay, reason enters. The Stoic asks, what virtue is this situation demanding? Sometimes it is patience, sometimes courage, sometimes restraint. By answering this question, adversity is given direction and meaning. Hardship also teaches humility. It reminds us of our limits, our dependence on time, chance, and others. Stoicism does not resent this reminder. It accepts Italiano. Humility reduces arrogance, and with reduced arrogance comes adaptability. Adaptability is essential to resilience, because rigid minds break under pressure, while flexible minds endure. Adversity strips away illusion. It reveals what truly matters by removing what does not. Status, comfort, and approval lose importance when survival, integrity, and clarity take center stage. Stoicism values this stripping away because it simplifies life. Simplicity strengthens focus, and focus strengthens resilience. The Stoic does not ask for fairness from adversity. He asks for usefulness. Even injustice becomes training in restraint and dignity. Even loss becomes training in gratitude for what remains. This mindset does not excuse wrongdoing, but it refuses to let wrongdoing corrupt the soul. Character is protected even when circumstances are cruel. Another Stoic insight is that endurance is not passive. Endurance includes intelligent adjustment. When a path is blocked, the Stoic finds another route. When strength is insufficient, patience is used. When speed fails, persistence succeeds. Adversity teaches versatility, and versatility builds long-term resilience. Over time, adversity becomes less threatening. Familiarity replaces fear. The Stoic who has endured many storms no longer panics at dark clouds. He knows that difficulty passes, strength remains, and character deepens. This confidence is quiet, earned, and unshakable. By treating adversity as training, Stoicism removes the element of surprise from suffering. Pain may still arrive, but despair does not. Each obstacle becomes a lesson, each hardship a sharpening stone. In this way, resilience is not a reaction to adversity, it is the result of having been trained by it. Chapter 5. Emotional discipline, not suppression. Mastering the inner storm. Why do emotions often control us more than reason? No man is free who is not master of himself, said Epictetus, revealing the core Stoic principle that true strength lies in governing one's own mind. Imagine standing in a raging storm, waves crashing and winds howling, yet remaining steady not because the storm has ceased, but because the inner anchor holds. Emotional discipline is that anchor. Stoicism does not seek to remove emotion, but to transform its power into clarity and choice. Most people believe emotions must be felt fully, unchecked, and expressed immediately. Stoicism challenges this assumption. Emotions are signals, not commands. Anger alerts to perceived injustice, fear signals potential danger, and sadness marks loss. The Stoic observes these signals without automatically obeying them. This observation creates a pause between stimulus and response, a pause where reason and choice emerge. Suppression is not the goal. Ignoring or denying emotions only buries them, letting them grow secretly into resentment, anxiety, or despair. Emotional discipline, by contrast, is conscious regulation. It is understanding the root of the emotion, evaluating its truth, and choosing a response aligned with virtue and reason. Discipline channels energy rather than wasting it on reaction. Consider anger. A common human reaction is to lash out or stew. Stoicism teaches to pause, recognize the judgment behind anger, and respond with calm assertiveness or strategic inaction. The emotion remains present, but it no longer dictates behavior. This separation builds resilience because decisions become deliberate, not reactive. Fear is another critical target. Modern life generates constant fear of failure, rejection, uncertainty. Stoicism transforms fear into rational evaluation. By examining what is within control and what is not, fear loses its grip. The Stoic faces danger or uncertainty with measured courage, understanding that panic only weakens performance and clarity. Grief and sadness also fall under this discipline. Stoics do not demand joy in loss. They demand understanding. Grief is natural, but clinging to despair or self-pity is optional. By acknowledging impermanence and focusing on what can still be cherished or acted upon, the mind maintains balance. Emotional discipline turns mourning into reflection, loss into appreciation, and endings into lessons. Daily practice strengthens this discipline. Journaling, meditation, reflection, and negative visualization train the mind to notice emotional triggers and respond rationally. Each deliberate pause, each conscious choice over reaction, reinforces mental resilience. Over time, emotional storms become navigable rather than overwhelming. Stoic emotional discipline also improves relationships. A person who reacts impulsively fuels conflict. A person who responds with awareness diffuses it. By controlling internal states, the Stoic influences external interactions positively. Calmness spreads, reason guides. This creates stability not only within but also around oneself. Discipline requires courage. It is easier to vent, blame, or indulge in distraction than to observe and correct emotional impulses. Yet the reward is profound: autonomy. The Stoic becomes less susceptible to manipulation, less dependent on external approval, and more grounded in self-guided purpose. Emotional independence is the core of resilience. The ultimate goal is freedom. By mastering emotions, the mind is no longer a battlefield, but a command center. Decisions are strategic, focus is sharp, and energy is conserved. Resilience becomes habitual, because the individual is no longer buffeted uncontrollably by waves of emotion. The storm can rage, but the inner anchor holds. Stoicism teaches that emotional discipline does not remove humanity. It perfects Italiano, feeling deeply, responding wisely, acting virtuously. These are not contradictory but complementary. The disciplined mind experiences life fully while remaining steady. This steadiness is the hallmark of Stoic resilience, the calm within the chaos, the power within the pause, the strength within the storm. Chapter 6. The power of negative visualization. Preparing the mind for life's uncertainty. Why do we fear loss so intensely, even when it is inevitable? Marcus Aurelius suggested a radical remedy. Begin each day by telling yourself, "Today I shall meet with the unexpected, the unpleasant, the unwelcome." This practice, known as negative visualization, trains the mind to face life's uncertainties without panic. Imagine preparing for a storm before it hits, packing wisely, and positioning yourself safely rather than being swept away unprepared. Stoicism teaches that by envisioning loss, disappointment, and failure in advance, we can meet reality with calm, gratitude, and resilience. Human nature craves certainty and security. We cling to possessions, relationships, status, and health as if they are permanent, and every threat to them triggers anxiety. Negative visualization flips this instinct. By imagining loss not obsessively, but deliberately, the mind grows familiar with him. This reduces fear, softens attachment, and fosters appreciation for what is already present. Consider material possessions. We often tie happiness to things, believing life would be unbearable without them. Stoic practice asks, what if they were gone tomorrow? The mind rehearses coping strategies, gratitude for what remains, and the realization that value lies not in objects, but in character and action. This exercise transforms fear into preparedness and dependency into negative visualization. Also applies to relationships. People we love may leave, disappoint, or pass away. By briefly contemplating this, the Stoic increases presence and gratitude. Every interaction gains depth. Every moment of connection becomes more meaningful. The mind is not paralyzed by fear, but enriched by awareness. Stoics do not dwell in pessimism. The goal is not to become morbid, but to strengthen resilience. Imagining adversity is a rehearsal, a mental training ground. When misfortune occurs, the mind has already visited it and is ready to respond rationally rather than emotionally. This readiness transforms potential panic into composed action. Emotional preparation extends to reputation, career, and status. Public opinion and social validation are fragile. By visualizing criticism, setbacks, or humiliation, the Stoic reduces attachment to others' judgments. Confidence becomes self-generated, grounded in virtue rather than popularity. This is crucial for resilience, because the external world will always be unpredictable. The practice of negative visualization also cultivates gratitude. When the mind contemplates potential loss, present blessings become clearer. We recognize the fragility of comfort, health, and relationships, and we savor them more deeply. Gratitude strengthens contentment and reduces suffering when change inevitably arrives. Negative visualization sharpens decision. Anticipating worst-case scenarios encourages prudence without panic. Risks are assessed realistically, priorities are clarified, and resources are allocated wisely. The Stoic becomes proactive, not reactive, because the mind has already rehearsed possible challenges. There is also a paradoxical benefit. By imagining loss, attachment diminishes, yet appreciation deepens. The Stoic does not become cold or detached. He becomes balanced. He experiences joy without dependency, love without desperation, and purpose without illusion. Resilience grows naturally from this equilibrium. Daily practice is simple but powerful. Take a few moments to reflect on potential hardships, a lost opportunity, a failed project, a conflict with a loved one. Envision your response, grounded in virtue, reason, and acceptance. Over time, the mind internalizes preparedness, and fear loses its ability to paralyze. In life, nothing is permanent. Stoicism teaches that control over response matters more than control over events. Negative visualization is the bridge between inevitability and serenity. By rehearsing adversity, the Stoic strengthens inner calm, reduces unnecessary suffering, and meets life with courage, clarity, and enduring resilience. Through this practice, the mind becomes like a well-trained sailor, anticipating storm steady, alert, and the external world remains unpredictable, but the inner world becomes a fortress, and it is in this fortress, prepared and disciplined, that true Stoic resilience is born. Chapter 7. Simplicity and Detachment. Freedom through less. Why do we feel anxious even when life is full of comfort? Stoicism teaches that excessive desire, expectation, and attachment creates vulnerability. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. Imagine a mind uncluttered by greed, envy, and unnecessary longing, moving freely through life, unaffected by the constant push and pull of wants. Simplicity and detachment are not renunciation, they are strategies for resilience. Modern life bombards us with endless desires, possessions, recognition, power, and pleasure. Stoicism teaches that happiness anchored to external things is fragile. When desires are reduced and priorities clarified, the mind gains stability. Less dependency on the uncontrollable equals more inner freedom. Resilience grows because the mind no longer collapses when the external world shifts. Detachment is often misunderstood as coldness or apathy. In reality, Stoic detachment is conscious engagement without obsession. You can care deeply about work, relationships, or goals, yet remain mentally independent of outcomes. This creates a paradoxical strength. Passion without vulnerability, effort without desperation. The mind remains steady because it is not enslaved by expectation. Simplicity also sharpens focus. Excess clutter both physical and mental splits attention and weakens judgment. Stoics practice clarity by eliminating distractions, prioritizing essential actions, and refusing to let trivial matters consume energy. With fewer competing demands, the mind is free to act decisively and calmly, the foundation of resilience. Detachment applies to both people and possessions. Loved ones may leave. Material wealth may vanish. Status may shift. By acknowledging impermanence and practicing measured non-attachment, suffering diminishes without diminishing care. Stoicism does not teach neglect. It teaches emotional equilibrium. You invest fully in life, yet maintain an inner reserve of stability independent of external validation. Simplicity also encourages moderation in thought and speech. Rumination, gossip, and obsessive planning drain mental energy. The Stoic trains attention on what is necessary and virtuous, avoiding mental noise. This disciplined simplicity strengthens reasoning and reduces anxiety, producing a mind capable of steady reflection even amid chaos. Financial and material simplicity further illustrates resilience. Wealth, when accumulated without attachment, becomes a tool rather than a source of fear. The Stoic knows that loss of riches does not equate to loss of character or peace. Similarly, time and energy are viewed as finite resources to be spent wisely, not squandered chasing endless desire. Detachment also nurtures emotional resilience. When disappointment arises, the Stoic does not collapse under unmet expectation. Loss becomes manageable because the mind does not overvalue what is inherently gratitude for what remains becomes natural. By reducing dependency on external conditions, the mind achieves stability. Simplicity and detachment create mental agility. The mind moves quickly, adapts easily, and remains unshaken when circumstances change. Stoics compare this to a tree bending in the wind, flexible, rooted, and unbroken. The ability to endure and adapt without rigidity is the essence of resilient thinking. By practicing simplicity daily, choosing needs over wants, prioritizing virtue over pleasure, focusing on essentials, the Stoic reduces internal friction. The mind experiences freedom from distraction, freedom from craving, and freedom from emotional turbulence. This freedom is the cornerstone of inner resilience. In essence, resilience through simplicity and detachment is not about deprivation. It is about empowerment. It is the conscious choice to free the mind from unnecessary burdens, allowing it to respond to life with clarity, courage, and balance. A mind unchained by excess becomes unshakable, prepared for both challenges and joys with equal composure. Through this disciplined simplicity, Stoicism teaches that true wealth lies not in abundance, but in the mastery of desire. The fewer chains you carry, the stronger you become. And it is in this strength, cultivated through detachment and clarity, that the resilient mind finds its freedom. Chapter 8. Living by Virtue, the Foundation of True Strength. What does it mean to live a life that cannot be shaken by circumstance? Seneca reminds us, if you wish to be brave, do not ask for anything from the outside world. Stoicism teaches that external conditions, wealth, status, praise are unreliable. True resilience is built on an internal foundation. Virtue. Imagine a person whose decisions are guided by wisdom, courage, justice, and storm, no betrayal, and no loss can compromise their integrity. Living by virtue is not abstract. Morality is the backbone of an unbreakable mind. Virtue in Stoicism is practical. Wisdom enables sound judgment. Courage allows decisive action despite fear. Justice ensures fairness and empathy. And self-control regulates impulses and desire. Together, these qualities create a stable, resilient character capable of navigating life's uncertainties. Unlike external success, which fluctuates, virtue remains constant and cultivates inner power. Many people confuse resilience with toughness or stubbornness, but Stoicism defines it differently. True resilience is ethical strength, the ability to face adversity without compromising principles. A person may suffer loss, face humiliation, or endure a pain, yet, if actions are guided by virtue, suffering does not destroy the mind. Virtue transforms difficulty into an arena for moral and mental growth. Living by virtue also provides clarity in decision. When values are well defined, choices become simpler. In chaotic situations, the mind does not wander between indecision and emotion. It acts according to principle. This consistency is a hallmark of Stoic resilience, as it reduces confusion, regret, and unnecessary conflict. Virtue guides response to external events. When insulted, the virtuous person responds with reason, not retaliation. When betrayed, they maintain integrity, not vengeance. When faced with loss, they act with gratitude, not despair. These choices preserve mental stability and reinforce resilience. Creating a feedback loop, virtuous action strengthens character, and strengthened character improves response to future challenges. Stoicism emphasizes that virtue is sufficient for happiness. External wealth or pleasure may enhance life, but cannot guarantee it. Conversely, a life of virtue provides satisfaction and meaning independent of circumstance. This principle frees the mind from dependence on fleeting externalities, ensuring peace even in the midst of turmoil. Daily practice is essential. The Stoic reflects on actions, examines motives, and corrects errors. Self-awareness and deliberate improvement cultivate virtue steadily over time. Challenges are approached as exercises in moral strength, patience during frustration, courage under threat, honesty in temptation. Each moment becomes an opportunity to reinforce resilience through ethical living. Virtue also strengthens social resilience. Acting justly and ethically earns trust, fosters cooperation, and stabilizes relationships. Even when the world is chaotic or unjust, a virtuous person remains anchored in integrity, inspiring confidence in themselves and others. This moral grounding reduces vulnerability to manipulation and disappointment. Another key aspect is the alignment of desire with virtue. The Stoic desires what is right, not what is easy or popular. This alignment reduces internal conflict and minimizes regret. A mind focused on virtue does not suffer from longing for unattainable or superficial goals. Resilience grows because energy is directed toward meaningful action rather than futile pursuit. Living by virtue is not perfection. It is consistent effort. Mistakes are inevitable, but the Stoic learns, adjusts, and recommits to principle. This resilience is sustainable because it relies on internal character rather than fleeting external conditions. Ultimately, the Stoic understands that strength without virtue is hollow. Courage without wisdom leads to recklessness. Discipline without justice leads to rigidity. Intelligence without ethics leads to manipulation. Virtue integrates these qualities into a resilient whole, ensuring that the mind and character endure life's trials with dignity and clarity. By anchoring life in virtue, Stoicism provides a framework for unshakable resilience. The world may challenge, mislead, or punish, but the virtuous mind remains steadfast, clear, and powerful. This is the inner fortress, built not of avoidance or denial, but of principled action, the true source of Stoic strength. Chapter 9. Silence, Reflection, and Inner Dialogue. Cultivating. Why do some minds remain calm in chaos, while others are constantly unsettled? Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nowhere can a man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." Stoicism teaches that resilience is cultivated through silence, reflection, and inner dialogue. Reflection is the exercise of self. The Stoic reviews actions, evaluates choices, and learns from mistakes. Journaling, meditation, or quiet contemplation strengthens understanding of personal motives and patterns. By identifying where impulses or fear led to error, the mind gains power to correct itself. Reflection transforms experience into wisdom, turning daily life into ongoing training in resilience. Inner dialogue is the conversation we have with ourselves. It is not mere self-talk, but reasoned guidance. When fear arises, the Stoic asks, is this fear based on reality or imagination? What is truly within my control? When anger or frustration emerges, the question becomes, doth responding in anger serve virtue or cloud judgment? These internal checks create a pause between stimulus and response, allowing choice over reaction. Silence, reflection, and dialogue also cultivate patience. Without them, minds act impulsively, overreacting to minor disruptions. Stoicism trains the mind to tolerate discomfort without losing composure. By observing thoughts and emotions without immediate reaction, a sense of stability develops resilience in its quiet, enduring form. Consider failure or criticism. The untrained mind may react defensively or with self-recrimination. The Stoic, using reflection and dialogue, examines the event, evaluates responsibility, and decides on constructive action. Mistakes become lessons, not sources of despair. Emotional energy is preserved and redirected into growth rather than wasted on blame or anxiety. Silence also enhances focus. A mind free from external noise can prioritize effectively, making decisions aligned with virtue and long-term purpose. By removing clutter, the Stoic ensures mental resources are allocated to meaningful action rather than distractions or emotional turbulence. Inner dialogue builds ethical consistency. By repeatedly asking, does this choice reflect virtue? The Stoic strengthens moral compass. Over time, this process becomes intuitive, guiding decisions automatically and reducing the influence of impulsive or reactive tendencies. Resilience grows because judgment becomes reliable even under pressure. Reflection also deepens gratitude. By considering life's blessings and opportunities, the mind appreciates what is often overlooked. Gratitude strengthens contentment, reducing anxiety and envy, two forces that undermine mental resilience. A reflective mind finds richness in simplicity and strength in presence. The combination of silence, reflection, and inner dialogue creates a mental sanctuary. Even amid external chaos, The Stoic retains a space of clarity, where reason, virtue, and deliberate action reign. This inner retreat becomes a source of calm authority, a mind that observes, understands, and chooses its path deliberately. Ultimately, resilience is inseparable from without insight into thoughts, emotions, and motives. The mind drifts, easily shaken by circumstance. Stoicism teaches that through disciplined silence, careful reflection, and purposeful dialogue, the mind gains sovereignty over itself. In this sovereignty lies strength, composure, and the unshakable foundation of Stoic in Chapter 10. Accepting mortality, living fully through awareness of death. Why do we fear death when it is the only certainty in life? Seneca reminds us, let us prepare our minds as if we'd come to the very end of life. Let us postpone nothing. Stoicism teaches that awareness and acceptance of mortality is not morbid, but liberating. Imagine a person who walks through each day, knowing that life is finite. Every moment gains weight. Every choice gains clarity, and trivial anxieties lose significance. Acceptance of death is the ultimate discipline for building resilience and living with purpose. Most people avoid thinking about mortality, creating a mental bubble where life is endless. This avoidance, however, increases fear when death inevitably arrives, and it blinds people to the fleeting nature of time. Stoicism confronts mortality directly, using it as a tool to sharpen focus, prioritize se birdue, and cultivate gratitude. By acknowledging impermanence, the mind is freed from illusions and distraction. Negative visualization, a practice discussed earlier, complements this acceptance. By imagining death or loss, the mind becomes familiar with endings, reducing panic and attachment. The result is not despair, but readiness. We can cherish life fully precisely because we know it will end. Fear of death diminishes, replaced by a mindful embrace of the present. Mortality also clarifies priorities. What truly matters becomes evident when time is limited. Relationships, character, meaningful action, and contribution. Superficial pursuits, wealth, status, trivial desires shrink in significance. Stoicism teaches that resilience grows when the mind aligns effort with enduring values rather than fleeting distractions. Death teaches humility. The Stoic understands that life is beyond full control and that external achievements are temporary. This humility does not weaken but strengthens, preventing arrogance, envy, and resentment. The resilient mind recognizes its limitations yet acts with courage, virtue, and intention. Facing mortality encourages courage. Life involves inevitable losses: health, loved ones, opportunities. Acceptance of death strengthens the ability to endure these losses without collapsing. The Stoic does not cling to permanence, but adapts gracefully to change, seeing life as a series of transient experiences rather than permanent possessions. Awareness of death also fosters gratitude. By understanding that time is finite, the mind values moments more deeply. Daily experiences, however ordinary, gain richness and significance. Resilience is nurtured because contentment no longer depends on abundance or permanence, but on conscious presence and appreciation. Mortality also motivates deliberate action. Procrastination and indecision lose appeal when life's brevity is acknowledged. The Stoic acts with purpose, invests in meaningful work, and communicates sincerely. Every moment becomes an opportunity to practice virtue and strengthen character. Socially, accepting mortality enhances relationships. We cherish loved ones more, speak truthfully, forgive generously, and invest in connection rather than conflict. Fear of loss is transformed into proactive love and care. This emotional clarity strengthens resilience, as attachments are experienced fully without dependence on permanence. Stoicism also teaches that death is natural, not evil. Resisting it creates unnecessary suffering. Understanding it as a universal process aligns the mind with reality. Life's challenges seem smaller when viewed against the backdrop of inevitability. Resilience grows because the mind no longer expends energy fighting the unavoidable. Ultimately, acceptance of mortality liberates the mind. Anxiety, attachment, and fear diminish, leaving space for courage, clarity, and focus on what truly matters. By embracing life fully while acknowledging its end, the Stoic experiences both freedom and purpose. In like mortality is not a threat, but a teacher. By contemplating death, practicing gratitude, and aligning action with virtue, the Stoic transforms the fear of endings into the fuel for resilient, meaningful living. Life becomes precious, presence becomes practice, and the mind prepared for the inevitable becomes unshakable. Chapter 11.com Leadership in Chaos. Guiding with presence and purpose. What does it mean to lead when the world is in turmoil? Seneca wrote, "He who is brave is free," and in Stoicism, courage extends beyond personal endurance to influence others positively. Imagine a room full of panic and confusion, yet one person moves with calm assurance, setting the tone and guiding decisions. That calm is not performative, it is cultivated through inner mastery, virtue, and resilience. Stoicism teaches that true leadership begins within, and a composed mind inspires trust, clarity, and action amid chaos. Most leadership failures occur not because of poor strategy, but because of emotional instability. Panic, anger, or indecision spreads faster than any plan. The Stoic leader, trained in self-discipline, emotional regulation, and rational judgment, acts as an anchor. Calmness under pressure becomes contagious. Others mirror the composed state of the mind guiding them. Resilience, therefore, is not just personal, it is relational. Calm leadership requires mastery of perception and detachment. External events, mistakes, and criticism are inevitable, yet the Stoic leader does not allow these to dictate mood or action. Situations are assessed clearly, priorities are determined logically, and responses are deliberate. This presence enables decision-making that is effective rather than reactive, building credibility and trust over time. Virtue is the foundation of Stoic leadership. Courage allows difficult decisions to be made. Justice ensures fairness and trust. Wisdom guides strategy, and self-control prevents impulsive action. Leaders who embody these qualities not only survive turmoil, but elevate the teams and communities around them. Their authority stems not from position or fear, but from consistent, principled action. Communication is critical in chaotic situations. The Stoic leader chooses words carefully, avoiding blame, exaggeration, or unnecessary alarm. Clarity fosters understanding, reduces confusion, and directs energy toward solutions. By modeling calm reasoning and composed speech, the leader teaches others resilience through example. Adversity is an opportunity for growth in leadership as well. Challenges reveal weaknesses, demand creativity, and test patience. A Stoic sees these trials as exercises, using each situation to refine judgment, enhance adaptability, and cultivate empathy. Strength grows not in ease, but under pressure. Detachment allows leaders to act decisively without attachment to praise or fear of criticism. The Stoic understands that outcomes cannot always be controlled, but effort, integrity, and focus on virtue can. This mental independence prevents burnout, preserves moral clarity, and sustains long-term resilience. Leading with presence also requires reflection. After crises, the Stoic evaluates decisions, learns from errors, and strengthens practices for the future. This iterative process ensures continuous growth and adaptation. Resilience is reinforced because mistakes become teachers, not sources of shame or panic. Stoic leadership fosters collective resilience. Teams guided by calm, disciplined minds develop trust, cohesion, and confidence. When individuals witnessed consistent composure, they internalize similar behaviors, creating a culture of stability amid uncertainty. Leadership thus multiplies resilience, extending it beyond the individual to the group. Ultimately, calm leadership is rooted in the ability to regulate emotion, perceive reality accurately, act according to virtue, and maintain presence creates influence that transcends circumstance. Chaos may rage, yet the steady mind illuminates the path forward. Through Stoic principles, leadership becomes a practice of resilience, guiding oneself first, inspiring others through example, and acting with courage, wisdom, and integrity. In mastering inner calm, the Stoic leader transforms uncertainty into opportunity, panic into purposeful action, and disruption into disciplined growth.
Chapter 12. Freedom through acceptance. The final Stoic secret. What does it mean to be truly free in a world that constantly demands, threatens, and changes? Epictetus reminds us, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. Stoicism teaches that ultimate resilience arises from acceptance, embracing reality fully, relinquishing attachment to the uncontrollable, and anchoring peace within the mind. Imagine walking through life unshaken by praise or blame, fortune or misfortune, chaos or calm. That is, the freedom Stoicism offers, a freedom that no external force can take. Acceptance is often misunderstood as passivity. The Stoic does not surrender to life. Rather, he engages fully with clarity, courage, and purpose, acting where possible and releasing what cannot be controlled. By letting go of resistance to reality, the mind conserves energy, reduces suffering, and focuses on what truly matters. Resilience flourishes because the mind stops wasting power on impossibilities. Life constantly presents situations beyond control, other people's actions, societal upheavals, illness, natural disasters, and the inevitability of change. The mind that resists these realities becomes anxious, angry, and vulnerable. The Stoic accepts them without surrendering effort or principle. This mental stance transforms obstacles from threats into neutral facts, enabling reasoned response rather than emotional reaction. Acceptance also nurtures emotional stability. When expectations are released, disappointment diminishes. When desire for permanence is let go, gratitude and contentment grow. The Stoic experiences joy fully, yet without dependency. This inner equilibrium is the hallmark of unshakable resilience. Freedom through acceptance is deeply connected to time. Life is fleeting, impermanent, and uncertain. The Stoic recognizes this and invests energy in what is meaningful: virtue, purpose, growth, and contribution. Acceptance of temporality motivates deliberate action, prioritization, and appreciation. Transforming awareness of mortality into a source of empowerment rather than fear. The Stoic mind also detaches from societal pressures. Status, recognition, and approval are transient. By accepting that these lie outside true control, the individual preserves integrity and independence. Decisions are guided by reason and principle rather than fear of judgment. Resilience arises because external chaos cannot disturb internal order. Acceptance extends to self-understanding. We are finite, imperfect, and subject to error. Stoicism teaches acknowledgement of limits without self-condemnation. Weaknesses are recognized, corrected, and learned from. Strengths are exercised consciously. The mind remains balanced. Neither arrogant nor resilience becomes habitual. Another critical aspect of acceptance is the embrace of impermanence. Relationships, experiences, and achievements come and go. By understanding their transient nature, the mind appreciates them fully while remaining unbound. Loss does not destroy composure. Change is anticipated, prepared for, and met with calm. This mental flexibility is central to Stoic resilience. Acceptance also allows the mind to act without fear. When outcomes are uncertain, but effort and principle guide action, hesitation fades. The Stoic moves decisively, anchored not in control over results, but in mastery over intention and response. Freedom, therefore, is inseparable from purposeful engagement with reality. Daily practice strengthens this mindset. Reflection, meditation, journaling, and conscious observation of reactions reinforce acceptance. The mind learns to release frustration over what cannot be changed and invest fully where influence exists. Each day becomes both training ground and opportunity for growth. 2. Ultimately, Stoic freedom is not a reward, it is cultivated. It arises from disciplined acceptance, virtuous action, emotional mastery, and clarity of perception. External events may remain unpredictable, but the mind, grounded in reason and virtue, remains sovereign. Resilience is not borrowed from circumstance. It is built within. Through acceptance, the Stoic achieves the final secret: peace that cannot be shaken, strength that cannot be taken, and freedom that endures regardless of life's chaos. This is the culmination of the Stoic path of mind, prepared, anchored, and truly resilient.